Alright, this is my 1000 kilometers per hour review, non-spoiler of Divinity Original Sin 2, which I will refer to as Div 2 or Divinity 2 from now on. I'll start by talking about what the game is, in my opinion, what it does well, what it does poorly, and then some final thoughts about some very important things you should know before you decide to buy the game. So let's just get into it. What is Div 2? Div 2 is a hardcore RPG game, both in terms of combat and in world interaction. The combat in this game is turn-based. There are some tricks you can use, of course, to alter the way combat works, but in general, when it's each character's turn to do something, you choose what to do, and then it happens. Divinity 2 is also a game filled with lore and story, so it's a very exploration-heavy game. Divinity is also sort of an audiobook game, where you can lean back and have clues and exposition, background story, narrated to you through the narrator or the NPCs. Alright, so what does Div 2 do well? Combat. It does combat really well. It's easily one of the best parts of the game. There is a lot of depth to it. There is a lot of strategic planning, a lot of tactical decision making to come up with broken combos, solving fights as if they're puzzles, and it's just really, really well done, honestly. Character customization is also really deep, and this goes very hand in hand with the combat. There is so many things, and you're basically free to make the characters exactly the way you want in terms of stats, skills, items, talents, whatever you want to do. In terms of items, they also have plenty of fun items that some radically change the way you gear your character. Some of them have amazing stats that force you to actually have to go back and readjust your character sheet. The key characters in this game, teammates and key NPCs, story-related NPCs, are all very interesting. They're well acted, well written, they have a rich backstory, and they have really funny interactions, some of them. The visuals in this game, it's amazing. Just walking around in the beautiful world is immersive and just a joy for your eyes in general. And as previously mentioned, the story is rich, deep, and amazing. When you're moving through the story and finding your place in it, it's really immersive and it's really enjoyable, and it culminates into this juicy ending that, of course, I won't spoil. Now, what the game does poorly. Poor UI, poor quality of life. There's a lot of features, a lot of bugginess, a lot of inaccuracies that are annoying. It doesn't prevent you from enjoying the game, but there are moments where you really get annoyed. Outside of combat, there aren't that many consequences to the things that you do. Personally, I found that battle and exploration was the most interesting part of the game, and everything else was rather this kind of segue into more exploration and more battle. Next point, and this was really bad for me personally, the NPCs present very long line of inflated exposition and dialogue. It's very often very pompous. It serves no meaning. It's just overly long and this failed attempt at being poetically deep. And in some cases, it even spoiled or pseudo-spoiled, if you're paying attention, some twists that were going to happen later down the story way too soon and almost pointlessly as well. But there is an important point to be made about this later, so just stay tuned. And last, no crafting. There just is no good crafting in this game, which for an RPG game is kind of weird. Alright, these are some important thoughts that you should consider before committing to the game. The number one is consequences. The game, in my opinion, doesn't have too much consequences regarding what you do. It's set up in a way that you can explore most of the story regardless of what you do. Now, whether or not you think this is good or bad, I don't know, but at the very least they implemented it in a very seamless and smooth way. Rarely was I worried that what I would do would lock me out of some important quests or whatnot. I felt like regardless of what I do, I will be able to get a brunt of the game explored and played, which is good for me personally, because I like to play single player games one time and fully enjoy and immerse myself in the game and then be done with it. I have a hard time replaying single player games. There are, of course, consequences to your choices in set points in the game, and there are some things that has permanent effects, but I won't get into it due to spoilers. This can, of course, create some distance between action and consequences, but it's kind of up to you to decide whether you like that or not. Second important thing is whether or not you like to do stuff or listen to stuff. I mentioned this earlier, but the game offers two main ways to explore the lore and the world, and you can do that by either just walking around and exploring, fighting, figuring things out, looking for clues, putting pieces together on your own pace and the way you prefer to do it, which is my preferred way of playing. Or you can lean back and listen to all the exposition, all the narration, all the storytelling and whatnot, which is not my preferred way of playing. And you will be able to explore the game regardless of which one you choose, and it's actually a good thing that you have the option to pick one or both, or neither, if that's your thing. Final point I want to make is this sense of responsibility. This game has no policing system whatsoever. There is nobody that's going to punish you really for the things that you do. As opposed to many other games where there is a lot of hand-holding, there is a lot of limitations to what you can and can't do. Here, you are the one who decides what you feel about the actions that you're going to take. You can, of course, play this game as a min-maxing player, always making the best choice in whatever quantification that suits you, but in my opinion, the optimal way to play it is by role-playing. You sit down, and in the beginning of the game, when you decide who you want to play as, you kind of think about your character's psyche, personality, their background, their goals, and what they want to avoid, what they can and can't do, like what they're capable of doing, and how they decide things, and how this would apply if it was a real person. Those kind of mental notes about the character that I created was the guiding force behind the choices that I made and how I played and the things I wouldn't do in the story. And I think this is what the developers wanted you to do. You will in the end be the adjudicator of your own actions. You will decide if this is something that the character you designed is capable or not capable of doing. And this will also be the policing structure for your choices in the game. Overall, for me, Divinity 2 is one of the best single-player and best RPG games I've played in a long time. It's not a perfect game. However, somehow, despite this rather long list of drawbacks and uncertainties, none of them came in the way of my enjoyment in the game. And this is how I quantify a great game. And as a result of that, 99% of this journey, and this is important, there's also a journey to consider, it's not just about the end result. 99% of this journey was amazing and enjoyable and immersive for me. And if the things that I have said is intriguing to you, this is a game that I strongly recommend. Hope you liked this review, hope it helped you. See you in the next one. Bye.